Okay, so I'm coming to you live from my house. Okay, the reason why we're meeting now is you guys have finished Unit 6. Woo-woo! All right, so you guys know how to do story problems. You should know how to write situation equations, solution equations, and be able to understand through reading story problems multiple times the operations that you need to do to get them done. Okay, now we're moving on to something even more exciting. It's even more exciting than multi-step problems, right? It's writing them. Woo! Right? So exciting. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna, our focus today is writing expressions. Yay! Okay, so some of you know what an expression is, but some of you may not. So an expression is a math sentence without an equal sign. Okay, so here's the difference. An equation says 7 plus 2 plus 3 equals 12. That is an equation. An expression says something like 7 times 2, then plus 3, and that's it, right? So there's no equal sign in an expression. That's the big difference. Isn't that crazy? We have a different word just for that. Okay, so let's move on. So our goal today, right, is to learn how to write expressions. But in order to do that, we've got to be very familiar with the order of operations, right? So the order of operations is a set of rules that in the math world you have to follow in order to solve problems correctly. Okay, so what that means is sometimes we have math expressions and the expression has multiple operations. Okay, meaning it might have multiply, divide, add, and subtract all in the same sentence, right? Or in the same expression. It's not, if we just did it from left to right, sometimes that won't give us the right answer. We have to follow the order of operations. So, what is the order of operations? Well, I'll tell you super quickly, okay? You may have heard of them before, but the order of operations, okay? You may have heard it be called something like PEMDAS, okay? PEMDAS is just an acronym, and it just tells you exactly the order, right, based on the first letter. So the first letter is P, and P stands for, you guessed it, parentheses. Okay, so the P stands for parentheses. That means that anything in a parentheses has to be done first, okay? I think you guys have learned this in previous grades, but just to make sure you understand, anything that looks like this, that has this in there, in the equation, or in the, not the equation, the expression, if it has parentheses, you do what is in those parentheses before anything else, okay? The next letter of PEMDAS is an E. I'm going to grab another piece of tape really quick because this is going to keep flopping, okay? All right, so the next one is an E. An E for PEMDAS, that stands for exponents, okay? So fifth graders, you've used exponents before when we were doing 10 to the power of 2, 10 to the power of 3, and so on. The powers are your exponents, okay? So let me write that down really quickly. Where's my black marker? There it is. Exponents. Okay, and then I'll just put this right here. So if you have 10 to the power of 2, this right here, the power, that is considered the exponent, okay? So first thing you do is anything in parentheses the next thing you do is any exponents, okay? So far we have the P, we have the E, and now we're on to the next letter, which is M. Any guesses on what M stands for? What's an operation that we use that starts with the letter M? What is it? Multiplication, right? So multiplication is the next one. So I'll put M down. And when I put M down, I'm going to put D down. Okay? What would D stand for? Well, it's division, right? Just like you guys have all learned before. Multiplication and division. I'll write those down. And you may be wondering why I'm talking about those at the same time. And it's because multiplication and division are related operations, meaning multiplication is the opposite of division and division is the opposite of multiplication, okay? So that's why I'm talking about them at the same time, even though they're on separate lines, right? It's just multiplication and division. You do them both at the same time, okay? So multiplication and division. Right? Okay. Oh, I should have wrote that in black. I'll write it really quick. I have a plug behind this paper, and that's why I'm writing a little bit crazy. So I apologize about that. Hopefully you can still read it. Okay, so you have multiplication, then division. So P, E, M, D, and then what starts next? A. A, let's see, what do we have that starts with an A that has to do with math? I got it. Addition. There we go. So I'm going to do addition next, and right after that is subtraction. Now, much like multiplication and division, addition and subtraction are related. Super cool, right? I bet you guys already knew that, but I'm covering it just so that there's no questions, okay? So addition and subtraction. Okay, so these are the order of operations, okay? First, parentheses, second, exponents, third, multiplication or division, okay? Because those two are related operations. And then the next one is addition and subtraction, okay? So PEMDAS, right? You may have also heard a fun little riddle to help you remember, and it's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Pretty cool, right? All right, so you may be wondering, why does this matter and why do I care? Okay, why this matters is because when you're writing expressions, you have to write it in the way that the order of operations says it has to be done, okay? So I'll give you an example in just a moment, okay? And so that's why you have to know this. And why do you care? Well, because you want to be successful when you're writing expressions, right? And the only way to be successful writing expressions is knowing the order of operations so that when you're writing your expressions, you understand what you're saying, okay? So let me give you an example really quick, and we will cover that, and then we'll move on to something bigger and better. So here is my quick sign that if I was in my classroom, I would hang it up on the wall. I know it's very artsy, okay? We're gonna move on to an actual expression, okay? So here it goes, right? All right, here's my example. So I'm just gonna write down a quick expression, okay? And we'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about why it's important, and then we'll go from there, okay? So here's the example. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it looks like you can see it. Okay, so 11 times 8 plus 2. Okay, so if I were to do this, right, using order of operations, I would do, let's see, Is there any parentheses? No. Are there any exponents? No. Is there multiplication? Yes. Right? So I would do the multiplication first, which I know that 8 or 11 multiplied by 8 gives me what? Gives me 88, right? So this would be 88, and then it would be plus 2. So I would get 88, right? Plus 2, right? And we all know that 88 plus 2 equals 90, right? So that would be my answer if I was following it, right? Okay, but what if I changed it just a smidget, right? What if I put this? Okay. If I do that, does the expression change? Well, it does, right? Because I added parentheses. What else changes? Does the answer change? Yes. Yes, it does. It changes quite a bit, actually. So here's where we go, all right? So I'll solve it, right? Now I have to go back through that order of operations, right? So does it have parentheses? Yes, it does. Okay, so I'm going to solve that one first. So 8, and I add 2 to 8, and that gives me 10. And then I have 11 multiplied by 10, and that gives me, you're right, 110. Very good. Okay, so this is where it gets really important that we pay attention to our order of operations, okay? Because when you're solving, or when you're writing expressions out, like let's say you're writing it in word form, you have to say it in the order of operations, okay? So for example, if I were going to write this expression and I was going to write it in words, I'm going to write it differently in words than I would just 11 times 8 plus 2. It wouldn't be that way, right? I would say 11 multiplied by the sum of 8 plus 2, right? Or I could say the sum of 8 plus 2 multiplied by 8. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay, let me give you another example and we'll keep covering this, okay? The reason why we have to go through this multiple times is because this is a hard concept, right? We're so used to, in 5th grade, just going straight across, right? And sometimes we get stuck when we realize, wait, there's parentheses there. So how do I mention that first? Okay, so essentially what you're doing is you have to look in the parentheses first, and you have to say what's happening in there. Well, 8 plus 2, we know that a sum is the answer of an addition problem, right? So I would say the expression, the sum of 8 plus 2 multiplied by 11, or I could say 11 multiplied by the sum of 8 plus 2. Does that make sense? Okay, here we go. Let's move on to another one, okay? So here's another one. Don't mind me. I'm just writing on my wall. Don't worry, there's paper. Let's get started. Let's see if I have any other fun colors that will stand out. Okay. Let's see. Too bad I don't have my dice. Okay, so I am going to look and let's see. On my watch, I have 3 numbers. I have 3, 3, and 5. So I'm just going to use the numbers 3, 3, and 5. So I'm going to say okay, so here's my expression, right? Now, how would I say that in word form? Okay, so I'm saying it in word form. I have to say it based on the order of operations, right? So as I write it down, I have to write it as it would be computed in the order of operations. So I know that parentheses has to be done first. So I have to say what's in the parentheses first, right? So I would say the sum of 3 and 3 the sum of 3 and 3, right? And then multiplied by 6. Multiplied by 6. Okay? So the biggest deal, right? When you're saying an expression, you say it in the order of operations. So that's where you think parentheses, exponents, multiplication or division, adding and subtraction. Okay? So I said the parentheses first, and then I said multiplication because that comes next, right? Because I don't have any exponents. All right, I'll do one more example, and then we'll move on from there. So I'm going to take a few numbers off of this box right here. Let's see. So I have 6, 6, 2, and 0. 6, 6, 2 plus 0. Okay? So here we go. Let's get creative, shall we? I'm going to use black. Okay, so there's my numbers, okay? And now I want to make something really exciting. So I am going to do, let me do something I haven't done yet. Let's do this. Okay, there I go. I made something creative. Okay, it's creative in the world of math. Okay, there's my numbers, 6, 6, 2, and 0. And I want 6 and 2, right? I want that to be talked about first because that is in the parentheses, okay? So think about it, think in your mind, think of all those times in class that you've learned the names of different answers. Okay, because this is where you're going to apply it. Now, I already told you that the sum is the answer for an addition problem. So what is the name of the answer in a subtraction problem? Anyone know? Anyone know? Oh, I think I heard it from somewhere out in no man's land. It's called the difference, right? So as I'm writing this down, right, the parentheses are first, so I'm going to say that first when I'm writing it out in word form, okay? So I'm going to say the difference of 6 and 2. So I'll write that on the wall. The difference of 6 and 2. And you guys know the answer of that, right? The difference of 6 and 2 is, ding, 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 4, right? And then, what else am I going to do? So, parentheses is first, right? I don't have any exponents. Now I have a multiplication. So, the difference of 6 and 2 multiplied by 6 right? And then what? Then I add my 0. So the difference of 6 and 2 multiplied by 6, then add 0. Okay? All right, so hopefully this helps, okay? So you have an assignment on Google Classroom. It's the coolest assignment so far. Okay, maybe it's not the coolest, but it is super fun. And the whole assignment is practicing what I just taught, okay? So do your best, and we'll be in touch. All right, bye guys.